globally, from strategy down to legal rules and processes. So today with me to drive this conversation, we have two amazing professionals from Vesti. We have Olubunmi Opadoyin. She's the senior business analyst at Vesti. And we also have Adedamola Oni. He is Mr. Adedamola Oni. He is the corporate affairs lead and also the chief compliance officer at Vesti. Please, we are still expecting Mr. Adedamola Oni. Ms. Olubunmi is right here with us. So Ms. Olubunmi, kindly unmute and give us a quick introduction.
All right, thank you, Zainab. Good evening, everyone. Like you rightly said, my name is Olubunmi. I'm the Senior Business and Migration Analyst at Vesti, your go-to legal and migration operation system. And Zainab, I wanted to tell you, Mr. Damola is already on the call.
All right. Thank you so much, Bumi. Mr. Damola, please, can you give us a quick introduction?
Hi, Zainab. Hi, everyone. It's good to be on the call with you guys today. My name is Damola Oni. I'm an attorney with Vesti. I'm the corporate affairs lead, and it's good to be here having this discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining. So, in order not to waste time, we are going to move into the conversation straight out. So, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Damola. It's been a journey so far. I'd just like you to just give us a brief insight into your career journey, basically.
Okay. Thanks for that. So, as a lawyer, I started my journey, my legal background, in advocacy. That was where I started from, and then just a few years down the line, I pivoted into corporate law. I worked with one of the biggest tech companies, or the biggest digital tech companies in Nigeria, and the first public company, first tech public company, for a while before I moved to the United States, and then I joined Vesti. And one of the reasons why I love Vesti, and of course why we set up this company, is to reshape opportunity that may be eluding Africans and of course African startup founders, because we fast realized that there's a bottleneck, especially for African talents. There's like a barrier that keeps people from maximizing their talents. We've seen so many situations whereby African startup founders cannot access funding just because they do not have a visa to join a certain accelerator that requires them to be there physically, right? So there are so many things like that. A lot of people have gotten, their dream admissions, abroad, and couldn't just attend the school because they couldn't just land the visa to do that. So all of this culminated together as regards to why we actually set up this company, to ensure that we, offer people tailored guidance to get, to achieve their dreams of, global mobility. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Mr. Damola. That was quite insightful. So from everything you've told us now and the quick introduction I gave about you and the one you gave us, you work at the intersection of three major industry or sector. We have tech, we have law, and we have migration. What made you venture into this space, and how have you been able to stay committed over time?
Yeah, thanks for that. So, I probably have even partially answered that in my last response. But I would say, one of the things that keeps me going is the chance to simplify that complexity that I mentioned earlier, creating the access and championing the global competitiveness of professionals who deserve to thrive on the world stage. And as a matter of fact, it gives us joy. It gladdens our heart when we get approvals, from people, and then we see how they go on to do bigger things, on the world stage. It's basically the reason why, we're in business today and what keeps me going. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, sir. I am well aware that you've treaded this journey of going global before, right? Can you just give us a bit insight into how that went, basically? What inspired it, your epiphany, just a little backstory.
Yeah. So everyone's got personal stories of, probably why they moved to one country or the other. Like I said, everybody's got a personal story. But my own personal story just, stemmed off the NSAS protest, in 2020. And then that was when I felt like, hey, you know what? I was done with it with some things. And then I decided to, look for opportunities. Of course, I looked at different countries, and which is what any forward thinking, person who wants to, like, engage on global mobility would do. You consider different countries, you consider your options, you consider your qualifications, right? And I remember as of then, a lot of doors were not even opened yet because so many doors opened after COVID. So many countries realized that they needed talent, and of course, this is due to the vacuum that COVID created. But of course, as of the time that that I made the move, just a couple of options were, in fact, there are some options that were available that people didn't even know about, especially for countries like the United States, and of course, UK also, like, started bringing up some pathways, and then Canada joins and some other countries in the world. Of course, many of them are now waking up because based on some political activities or the ever-changing political landscape. You have trying to have a conversation about many of those pathways that they might have opened in the last 5 years, which may have, created an influx into their respective countries. But we're still going to talk about that later on in the webinar. And of course, to allay people's fears, especially with the changing policies that may have happened in specific countries like the UK. Okay. So having I for one have applied for a couple of, like, global talent visas. I have the US EB1, which is like equivalent of the UK technician, and I can tell you it's a life-changing opportunity because apart from the fact that you are recognized for your work, it's also, like, gives you that fulfillment that it's something that you're getting on on a self-recognizance. It helps you show the world that this is actually who you are. And of course, this is what you have actually used your career, you have built over the couple of years. So that's one of the reasons why I would say it's not just a dream, it's a real achievable game changer.
Thank you so much for that insight. I think a lot of people had their epiphany moments from the point of the COVID period. But I like how you ended it. You said it's pretty achievable. And at what point did you actually realize that, oh, this particular pathway is not far-fetched, it's achievable. At the same time, it's a game changer if you're if you're a tech professional, basically.
So basically, from the role that we play in as advisors, adversity, when we work with people or when we try to pre-qualify people for this kind of pathway, could be the technician pathway, could be the US extraordinary ability pathway. Oftentimes, when we have this session with people and we explain the requirement to people, and then we let them know that, see, for you to be successful on this application, these are the things that you need. Now, I tell people that many people cannot predict the future, even though some people think they can. But if you cannot predict what you think you would need in 2026 or 2028, you would hardly have everything, right? And that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand. It's only a few people that maybe they've been hands-on in terms of, like, how they've been putting themselves out there, professionally or career-wise, that would say, oh yes, the time has come for me to apply for a global talent visa in the UK or in the US. I have 100% all the documents or all the requirements. It rarely happens. A lot of people would just look at that requirement and then they assimilate it. They go back to the drawing board. And then, pretty much they start looking at how they can, better qualify for this particular visa or the pathway which they have selected. Now, I tell people what stands between you and the requirement of any respective global talent visa that you want to set pass on is time. If you're not in a rush and you're not like, because even on the technician application, they would ask you, how long did it take you to conceive the thoughts and how long did it take you to apply? They want to actually know the thought process between, how long it took you. So if you're the type that you feel maybe when you've, gone through the requirements, you feel like your application may be shaky, it's not the end of the road. Just give yourself time, do more work, look at the requirements, see how your work can actually better shape us up to fit in one or two or three of those, requirements, either mandatory or the optional categories, and of course determine which, pathway you want to apply for. You would be in a much better place.
Thank you so much, sir. I liked how you broke down the fact that people should pay attention to certain steps and processes when they're doing their research, during their research stage. So that brings me to the question that a lot of people have tried. They've done research. They've actually gone ahead to do their application, but a lot of people don't get it, and some people get it. Are there like some rules or common mistakes that most applicants make when going through a pathway or doing a visa application? Just give us like a bit of tea or insights on that.
Okay, thanks for that question. So I'll first put the technician into perspective as regards the common mistakes that we have seen people make in the field, especially from those who are applying. Now, the way the technician visa works is this: they're trying to put under under the telescope your achievements in the last 5 years in the digital technology sector. Now, for those who may not be aware, the technician is just one arm or one body that endorses people for the UK Global Talent Visa. For those who do not have a business in technology or who have not led a product-led company in the last 5 years, there are other endorsing bodies as well. We have the Arts Council. We have the Arts Council that pretty much endorse people that got things to do in the arts sector, and a couple of other endorsing bodies. So the technician is just one arm that they've designated to endorse people that have actually led or done some things as regards a product-led company. So you need to first understand that. So now the technician guide is very clear. You're looking for three set of people. You're looking for either founders who have created a company or a technology company in the last 5 years, or they're looking for senior executives of product-led digital companies or employees of those companies, which makes sense, right? Because now you can see that it's not only the owners of the company that can actually benefit from this visa. Now, when people are now trying to apply for this, the very first mistake that I see them make is choosing the wrong category to apply for. The technician visa is divided into two categories. You can apply either as an exceptional talent or an exceptional promise individual. Basically, you have to demonstrate that within the last 5 years, you have been recognized either as an exceptional talent individual or you have been recognized as an exceptional promise, basically meaning that your career is budding. You are on a trajectory to become a leader in the technology industry. Now, there are so many people that they believe, based on how many companies they've worked with in the last decade or in the last 5 years, or the things that they have contributed, or how many lines of code they have written, how many apps they have built, they would rather apply for the exceptional talent category. And I don't blame them. The major difference between those two categories is the number of years that you have to spend in the UK to apply for your indefinite leave to remain. If you apply for the exceptional talent, you only have to spend 3 years before you can apply for your ILR. And if you apply for the exceptional promise, you have to spend 5 years. At least prior to the white paper that was released, a couple of days ago, which has not even got into full law yet. So for those who are panicking, whether, if you apply for a technician now, you have to spend 3 years in the UK before you can get the ILR. The white paper has not even gone. It has not even been passed into law yet. It's just a recommendation in which one of the parties has already given to the staff review it. Immigration Advisory Committee must review it. It has to go to the House of Commons, it must be passed into an act of parliament before that would become a law. So right as of now, the current regime is still applying, which states that if you apply for exceptional talent, you have to spend 3 years in the UK to get your ILR. If you apply for Promise, it's 5 years. Now, a lot of people want to bridge that number of years because, I mean, everybody is in a hurry these days. So people would rather apply for the exceptional talent category, and that's where the first mistake happens. Now, technician these days, they're a bit lenient than they used to be when they first started. And that's because we've seen many applications these days when you apply for talent and they see that you do not qualify, they will just help you downgrade it to exceptional Promise. Which makes sense, right? Because instead of them outrightly denying you, which they've done in the past on so many occasions, once you do that, they don't even want to see whether you may be overqualified for the Promise category. They just deny the application, and then when you reapply under exceptional Promise, then you may get it, and then you may so which means you may be spending money again. However, these days we've seen them, and I don't know whether this applies to everybody's cases, but at least in a few cases you have seen them, downgrade people's application to Promise when they do that. So that's one of the major mistakes that I see people making. Also, many underestimate the importance of quantifiable impact. One thing that people do when they apply for their technician application is that they just list the things that they have done. They don't really measure it. They don't explain. So one thing that the adjudicators at the other hand, the endorsers, they like to get and receive on this journey is that they want to understand the A to Z of what you have done. If you're saying that you spoke at a TechCrunch conference and this and that, they want to see pictures of you on stage. They want to see video evidence of you speaking at that conference. They want to see a lot of things that would basically prove that indeed you are who you say you are. If you're saying that you have led a digitally inclined company in the last 5 years, they want to see the metrics in which that way, which you can use to qualify that. How your app is doing on the Play Store, how your app is doing in the market. You need to provide as much evidence as possible. And it's also a journey in which you are limited in number of pages you have to submit and the number of evidence you have to submit. So you have to be concise and at the same time you have to supply weighty evidence. So they don't want people to just dump a variety of evidence on them, but they want you to be tactical in doing this. And of course that is where you seek professional help like Vesti to help you to organize this kind of thing so that that way you are putting forward the best version of your story professionally, and of course you can get your application approved based on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, sir. I'm still coming to ask certain questions in regards to the white paper. They dropped an 83 pages bombshell on a lot of people aspiring, people already in the process, and that's like a lot. So I'm still coming to that. But before we get to that, Ms. Bumi, do you have any common mistakes that applicants make in this process? Because you've been in this journey helping a lot of profiles get their visas. Are you aware of any common mistakes they make most of the time? Hi, Ms. Bumi.
Hi, Zainab. Please confirm you can hear me. Can you
Yes,
hear me clearly?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Please, can you take the question again? I think it was a bit easy in my end.
So I said, you've been on the journey of working with different profiles in the journey of getting their visas. Are there any common mistakes you are aware that a lot of applicants make that might be a thorn in their process of getting their approvals?
Okay. One of the most common things, aside all that Mr. Damola has mentioned, would be commonizing or overlooking the need for legal advisory while you are gathering your documents. This application with everything that is on the UK website, it's quite a lot to navigate for a lot of people. However, they tell you I can do it all by myself, thereby shooting themselves in the foot, not knowing what document is needed for what, or what are the right patterns to put my application together? What do I need to get in my portfolio? When they mean a portfolio, what do I need to include? What is not too much information? What is key? What does the technician really want to see? And you can only get that from an immigration attorney who has done this time and time and time again, in the document gathering process, to avoid, mistakes that can easily be avoided. And that way you're also able to navigate the process seamlessly. So I think one of the mistakes I've noticed is commonizing or overlooking the need for legal advisory.
Thank you so much for that. So this brings me to the point Mr. Demola had touched a bit when he was giving his insight. He mentioned the white paper. So it's been a pretty interesting week for people aspiring to apply for the UK visa and people that are in the process. The UK government dropped a bombshell, an 83-page bombshell, or 83 pages bombshell last week, and pretty much a lot of people are not sure where to go, whether or not the UK is still a viable pathway, whether they should even try. So a lot of people are scared. Mr. Demola, do you have anything to say to UK aspiring migrants on this?
Okay, thanks for that. So, one thing that I always want people to know when it comes to immigration is that visas are not a right, they're privileges. And the first thing that, once you understand this, then nothing would surprise you or nothing would shock you. And that's because, many of these countries that are opening their doors, they are doing it because, there's a reason why they're doing it. They're doing it because of themselves. They are trying to get a value, from immigrants. That's why they're doing that. Now, the moment that they see that, maybe that value isn't no longer obtained, or, then they will start to stiffen the pathways which they have, earlier created. So right now, for those who apply for the UK, it's not closed, it's evolving. The pathway is evolving, and it's still one of the most desirable places that you can move to. But one thing you should know is that it's a proposal, right? Which is basically a proposition. It would go through different stages before they actually make it a law. So one thing that you should notice is that if you're actually considering that maybe you've been putting timeline on it that you would apply later, you might want to double up on your efforts to try to maybe get something in or get your visa approved before this actually kicks in. Now, unless the government says that this is going to apply retrospectively, that is to those who are currently living in the UK and those from way back. I actually don't see this affecting those who are currently in the UK right now or those who are currently on the pathway to the indefinite leave to remain. So it's gonna just affect those that are applying for visas going forward after this has actually been passed into law. So which means that, and I always tell people, and it's not only the UK that does this kind of thing. If you have been paying attention, you would realize that virtually every first world country is having conversation about immigration. Of course, we can't tell you about Trump. You know what Trump is all about. You know why Trump is in office today. He's in office to basically kick off all the illegal immigrants in America. Carney just became the Prime Minister of Canada. He's also trying to have a conversation about the immigration thing in Canada as well. So countries are waking up, and of course you may see it as a way that, weren't you guys the ones that created all these pathways in the first place? It's totally normal for them to feign that kind of how do I put it, born again self-awareness, as if they weren't the one that created in the first place. But that shouldn't deter you, because once you're qualified for a pathway, you need to act fast in the interest of time, because immigration landscape is ever dynamic. It's a tool in which the political class uses to win elections. So if you're applying to a country whereby you know that the election is very close. I mean, the US election is still going to be far away, but in other countries whereby things can be a bit fluid, yes, the opposition party is always going to be using immigration as a tool in which they want to and that's why the Labour Party in the UK, which they are known for being pro-immigrant, are also trying to effect this kind of policy because they are being kept on their toes by the conservatives. Okay, so long and short of the story is that right now it's not going to apply to those currently in the UK or to those getting into the UK now, unless the law is actually passed and is made, to apply retrospectively to visas of the past. But you should have nothing to worry about. Just keep getting your applications in.
Thank you so much for that assurance, Mr. Demola. So basically, what Mr. Demola is trying to tell us, is that the tide and the opportunities keep growing all the time, and the shift is coming to those who are actually making exceptional wave and who can do great work within their industry or within their sectors. So the time is now. Basically, apply more pressure, apply more pressure, apply pressure, apply pressure, apply pressure. So in terms of applying pressure, let's now talk about processes, like people who are willing to start. Where does Vesti come in terms of support, in terms of compliance? I'll start with you, Mr. Damon.
Yeah, so at Justy, we provide more than just legal checklists. We like to see it as like taking our handholding 2-3 steps further. We offer strategic guidance on how to help applicants position themselves effectively. Now, we have seen so many diverse applicants, and I always love, of course, to work with people who are like overwhelmingly qualified, because now you have a problem, and it's a very good problem. The problem is actually like fitting those overwhelming qualifications into just few pages to qualify that kind of a person. Now, we also work with those who may not be fully, I mean, of course they're qualified, but in terms of evidence gathering, right, they may not have all those things as well. So we offer strategic guidance and of course things that they can put in place. But one thing you can rest assured is that it's not gonna be like a magic wand whereby you can just like say you want to submit or put in your application without the right documents. You understand? So we know the documents that you may be needing or that you are lacking. Now we're gonna give you the time to at least put those things in place. So technician can be a bit tricky because they understand when people are trying to maybe position for the visa. So, and that's why oftentimes there's a window in which they want your entries to come in under. I've seen situations whereby an endorsement is not given because the people at the technician felt that somebody's evidence, they were too recent. Everything was like in the past 1 month. And of course, you know what that means. This probably somebody went to, put things in place, just for the purpose of a visa application. And if you're an adjudicator, you can see through that because all you have to do is just look at the dates. Look at the dates publications and coming. And if you see that somebody has like, 5 or 10 publications in the past 2-3 weeks, that's a red flag, okay? So we know all these things that can potentially harm or injure your application. Of course, we're going to advise you against them, right? And of course, that's pretty much where we start from. So we understand the nuances from even the recommendation letters that you need to get. This is also one of the mistakes that people make. We've seen a lot of people that would like be asking for templates. Hey, I see you were approved for technician. Can I get your letter templates? That's the number one mistake that you can make. Technician, they discourage the use of templates, even for your personal statements. So they want you to just do it the way that it occurs to you. Do not worry about making mistake in the structure and the lexis of the letter, but just put it together in a way that would not show that you are plagiarizing or feeding out somebody else's work. So that's another thing to note. So we help people just like put all these things together in a way, and of course structure around the commercial impact of what they have done, and also we also help them present the strongest possible case.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for pointing out the fact that originality and sync in terms of flow of providing information is key to your processes. So I'd like to ask you, Ms. Bumi, in terms of storytelling, how do you think good storytelling makes the process easy for people who are looking to apply or people who are already in the process?
Okay. Thank you for that question. Well, I think Mr. Damola just mentioned it in the last line. He said one of the things that the UK does not like would be, copying templates. So originality and, a master, no one tells your story better than you. Like Ellen mentioned, nobody can tell your story better than you. So you just have to, you need to have like a structure for it. That's where the legal advisory I mentioned earlier comes in, where they're able to direct it. So you have pieces of your story. This is what I have done over the years of my experience in the tech ecosystem. And then they're able to guide you, put it together. So originality, telling your own story as it comes to you and how you are qualified for this particular process is actually very, very key as well.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bumi.
All right, before you go on, I also need to add something quickly, especially in the interest of those, who may just be joining the conversation. So when we say, Tech Nation or, people who have contributed to a digitally led company, so one thing that they may be interested to know to many people is that it's not only the software developers that can apply for the Tech Nation visa. You also can apply if you're actually a business person and you work for a digital company like this in the last 5 years. So you're a product manager, you're a project manager, and you're a compliance person, and you were actively involved in driving on in a particular application or some, then you should actually apply. So this is not just for technical people alone. So just like think of your impact. If you're a solution sales expert, you're a SaaS or an enterprises leader, C-suite executive, you're a CMO, CIO. Just think about your impact in that company, and then of course you can apply. Just wanted to chip that in.
Thank you so much, sir. I was about asking about how the Tech Nation visa or going global in general basically impacts a founder or a business owner's chances in terms of funding, partnerships. How does it help them with positioning? Can you just give us like a few insights into that?
It really does a lot, and you need to actually speak with those who may have been affected adversely in the past to fully understand the weight of what this does to tech founders or business owners in Nigeria or locally. Now I'll paint you a picture. There's this tech startup that has just that is making waves, and they have just secured an accelerator acceptance with let's say Techstars or Y Combinator. And these are accelerators that would require you and maybe a couple of your team members to be fully on ground. And for those who may not know what accelerators do, they shape on your business, they help you fine tune, a couple of things around your business so that you can actually be profitable and so that you can attract investors. They also invest in your business, by the way, by the time you finish the accelerator program. However, if you cannot meet the minimum requirement of even showing up to this accelerator, and of course, many of them happen in New York City, in Canada, in London. So if you cannot even secure the two, which is the access to join the cohort, then you are already at a disservice. I mean, no matter how bright or brilliant you think you are, or maybe how good of a thing you are doing in your company, if you don't actually have that access, then you're already being done a disservice. So that's basically where it starts from. Now, for those who have actually now obtained, that access in the past, that has been a life-changing, game-changing experience, for the founders, because now they have access to world-class opportunities that not only African founders have access to, because when you join this kind of cohorts, you meet founders from all over the world. And that way you see new things, you actually can, make world-class services, make fine-tune your own services better in a way to deliver global delivery. So the essence is just that, when you get one access, and also it opens more access. If it's a UK visa that you got or a US visa, it opens access to other countries, because that way, when you are applying for subsequent visas, conversation would come up on your previous ones. And of course, when they see that, okay, maybe a UK trusts you enough to approve a visa for you, or a Canada trusts you enough to grant you a visa. Other countries would de-risk you in that way because now they see that, okay, you know what, this person is like a KYC kind of thing. If the US embassy has given you a US visa, that's one of the greatest security checks that you can ever go through in the world today. And that's why if you have a US visa, getting a Canada visa is like 10 over 10 because, they layer their own checks on the US consulate. So they believe that if the US sees no danger in you, then why should they? So that's pretty much what it does. So, it opens the door to world-class ecosystem, and founders gain the credibility when pitching to either US or EU based funding, and they can just scale their company. So it's not just migration, it's expansion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that insight. So I'd like to ask, as someone who has gone through the process of going global before as a tech professional, what does success really look like as someone who has gotten their craft or their work on the global stage? What does success actually look like? Like, what's the feedback? What's the picture?
Yeah, so thank you. So to many people, it means different things, but I know for a fact that, it looks like integration, right? And it is because I would also want to paint you a picture again. There's something we call non-immigrant visas, especially for those who may be conversant with the US space. If you're on a non-immigrant visa in the US, it's kind of like, you are here temporarily. Same with the UK. If you're like, maybe on is it tier two they call it, the student visa, or some visas that doesn't require sponsorship, it means that you have an expiration time in the country. And of course, for many people who have spent significant amount of money, tuition, that's the last thing they want to, worry about. So that panic that, hey, this visa is up and you don't have like a way forward, or you don't have a sponsorship, or you don't have an other visa to pivot to, that your stay in this country may be up. So when you apply for a global talent visa, like, the Technician or the EB1, or, the equivalent in other countries, it fully integrates you into that ecosystem, into the market and the culture. Okay. Now, if you are now a tech founder, you can leverage your visa, to access funding, to collaborate with your peers, and of course, build visibility within your niche. Okay. Now, it requires preparation. Like that's all we've been saying all day long today. It requires preparation. It requires knowing your niche, knowing what you can offer, and of course, seeking legal advice to actually put your achievements together. And then of course the visa is a launch pad, but it's not a finish line, but it's just a launch pad.
Thank you so much, sir. So because we've been talking about a lot of opportunities and, talking about the technician pathway for, founders, business owners, tech developers. I just don't want to completely leave out people who are just starting out. There are a lot of people learning now that might not necessarily really qualify. And what are some pathways or other pathways you would recommend to people who are just starting out, and at the same time, just generally people who are aspiring to go global generally?
So there is this session that we run at Versity for anyone who has decided and made up their mind to say, okay, you know what, I want to explore global mobility. And this is a session whereby we go through different options, different countries, and of course different qualification. Yes, many of these pathways, they are requirement specific, which means that there's no in between. You either have the requirements or you do not. If you do not have the requirements, it's going to end in an unfavorable decision. Okay. Now, for many people who are just starting out, and of course, this is no shade to anyone's lives work. It is just what it is. These countries are not playing. They are, trying to bring in people of value to their country. So it is now left to you to demonstrate that you have that value. Now, the one of the world's easiest accessible visas today to maybe explore, to virtually any country would always be a visitor's visa or a student visa, right? And of course, all those visas also have intent. You have to demonstrate your intent before you can be approved for any of those visas, right? Now, if you now want, let's say, something on the long term, you want to be a resident in each of those countries, in the United States, in UK, you also have to look at the pathways that require you to be a resident. Okay. And that's why in the UK today, they have requirements around it. They tell you that for you to actually integrate into their system, for you to get, something of more permanency, you need to have a job that is willing to sponsor you. And there's the reason they did that, because they don't want people to be or to constitute nuisance into their system and just like not have a purpose. Okay, so they believe that if you have a purpose, you have a company who has taken a chance on you to employ you, and they are willing to sponsor you, then that makes sense, right? And also that's why they also devise the post-study route, then which a lot of people default to once they finish their studies. So pretty much any country which you want to move to, you need to look into, especially if that's your goal. One thing that we also try not to assume for people is to just, conclude that everybody desires residency or permanent residency or another passport. You would be surprised how many people are not even interested in that. All they just need is access, right? A lot of people are currently doing fantastic, doing amazing in Africa, and they don't actually desire their second passport, but they need access, whereby if anything requires them to be in the United States or Canada or UK next week or day after tomorrow, they can hop on a plane and be there. They don't plan to live there for the longest. They don't plan to live there for 2 years or 3 years straight, but they just want to actually have that access. Yes, that's very possible. So there are pathways for each and every intent or desire. Just make that forward. Book your call today. We are willing to go over many of those things with you and then recommend the appropriate pathway to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Damola. So, not to put you on the spot, but you've spoken about your epiphany, you've spoken about how you went through the process, you've spoken about what you think or what you've seen success look like. So I want to ask you, as someone who has gone global, who has tasted global visibility, based on your career, how do you feel personally? How do you feel?
Yeah, so like I said, it's always about the recognizance, and I'll give you an example. So I remember one of the time I was invited to speak at Oxford University in the UK, and I remember I got to the UK Customs and Border. I flew in from Dallas to the UK then, and the Home Office officer was asking me, "Oh, I mean, of course, this is a Nigerian passport," and he's like, "Hey, why are you in the UK?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm here to speak at the University of Oxford. I was invited by the business school." And he was like, "Oh, really? What do you do?" And then the conversation changed, right? Because now he's interested in knowing who I am and what I do. And just right there beside me, I see them, rough handling and, questioning an Indian guy, I don't know what's going on there, but, it was a bit distracting, but I was just trying to just focus on, getting admitted into the country anyway. So I explained what I do. I told him where I flew from, and he was like, "Oh, it's okay. You're welcome to the UK. Thank you." So the conversation changes when people realizes, the things that you have done in terms of significance, and of course how, your background that shapes up your, your current. And of course, that's why I tell people, and of course, this also brings me back to a lot of people who are doing so much right now, but they are doing it behind the scenes. They are doing it on the low key. I used to be one of those people as well because, naturally before, especially at the beginning of my career, I used to feel like, you know what, I don't need a spotlight, I don't need attention, right? I just need to move in silence, earn my paycheck, go home, that's it. And I see that a lot today when I speak with people or intending applicants for many of these pathways. People just tell me, "Oh, you know what, I even though I might have, done one or two things as regards the requirement of this pathway. But the problem is, I'm a very easygoing, low-key person. I don't have all these things in the media or art, yet. I just, like to maintain a low profile. Unfortunately, many of these visas would require you to make noise. This is one thing that I would want people on this webinar to, to take away. If you have the opportunity to make noise about the significant things that you're doing today, please do it. If you can publish it in newspapers, because that would also give you the essence of time, right? Because if it's like a timestamp as to when you're putting those things out. Put them on LinkedIn, put them on Medium, any opportunity that you see to actually showcase yourself, because that way, when the time comes for you to apply for this particular pathway, you can actually just put those things together and then make your application. So that's just my own 2 cents as regards that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Damola. That was very, very interesting, insightful, and also inspiring. I know you've mentioned a few legible people that can apply for the technician visa. So can you just give us like a list, like a run through, basically, like maybe like 5 or 6,
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was already speaking before I did unmute. So it's something that people ask a lot. I work as a product manager. I'm a developer. I'm an AWS a Q&A tester. Can I apply? So there's a metric in which this can be done. You have to just first understand what you do, and then of course go check out the technician guide as well. But you can see it under 2 broad lights, technical and business, right? I don't think maybe there's in between, maybe not. But I know today, you're either a technical person or you're a business person, right? And of course, when we say technical, we are talking about the principal software engineers, the developers, the data scientists, the AI, programmers, cybersecurity experts, data scientists, operating system engineers. When you hear things like this, those are technical skills, right? When you hear UI UX designers, mobile app developers, those are technical, skills. So all these people would have one impact or one role to play in the development of, let's say an application or a software. And in the basics, that's all you need. And that's why when you apply for these as a developer or as a software engineer, all you have to showcase for the technician to at least understand, because they understand that as a software developer or as a designer, you may not have all the grades to maybe be a speaker in front of all of 1,000 people. You know that many people don't have that time. They're busy coding, and that's why your GitHub repository is one of the strongest suits that you can put forward to get your technician application approved, because that is where they can see the evidence of your involvement, in different, technology platforms which you may have as contributed to the building. Okay, so that's that for the technical people. Now, the business people, this is where there's a bit of a gray area, because now everybody that works in a company would feel like, oh, after all, they're calling for business people. Maybe this applies to me. And you're not wrong. It depends on what you do and how you can actually properly contextualize your role in the development or, in the involvement of a particular digitally led company. Okay. Now, typically there is there are certain metrics which they use to measure this. And that's why there are some roles which, would be like on the forefront of the business side. So let's say you've been involved in growing a specifically product. You are a salesperson, right? Or you are a marketer, right? That is also good, because now you can explain, how your inputs led to maybe exponential sales of that particular, product, or to the growth of that particular company. Everything is all about description, right? So the adjudicators would not do it for you. You can't just say, oh, I'm a product engineer. I was involved, in the development of this particular app for maybe Vesti or for this other company, and then you leave it at that. And then the adjudicator will be like, okay, you're not done. You have to explain further. What is the app for? What does the app do? How many downloads, how many uploads. So just look at a lot of things on the back end. If you have the charts, you have the graph that can shows things on the analytics on the back end to prove that yes, indeed, you add impact in that particular development of that particular app or that company, then you're good to go. Also, you cannot underestimate the importance of recommendation letters. So for the technician application, they allow you. So there are like 3 letters that you need standard. You cannot even go around that. You need 3 separate letters, as part of your requirement. However, for the main categories, that's the mandatory and the optional categories, they allow you to use recommendation letters to prove many of those categories. And you know what recommendation letters can do if you actually obtain the right ones? They can help you fit a lot of things into proper perspective. So where you're struggling to narrow down or put evidence into perspective or gather things, or maybe you have not really done enough, getting people who are significant in your company, who are higher up there to help you straighten some things and put them into perspective and describe your impact or what you did towards that particular application or software can go a long way. So you need to start looking into that. And one thing you also need to notice is that you cannot repeat those letters. You cannot use the same evidence for different categories. So if you use your CTO for one category, you cannot use that particular person or that same letter for your mandatory letters anymore. So it's one thing that you need to also figure out before you start the process. Think of people who are higher up there in your profession, because that matters a lot. Technician would want to know, that person's standing. You cannot get, someone, let's say maybe, I'm trying to think of a particular role today. Maybe, let me see, maybe someone is into fashion, to now describe your work as let's say software engineer. It's not going to match. Do you get? So you need people actually understand the nitty-gritty of what you do to be able to help you put it into better perspective. So that's where I'm driving at. So for those who may be interested in the business arm, just go take a look at the technician guide. You will see a lot of roles that they've listed. And one thing I can tell you is that there are some roles as well which they have listed that do not qualify or they feel like are not suitable, and that's why you need to actually be explicitly clear before you actually apply. Okay, just go do your findings, check out those roles, and then if you see that you fit in one of the business or technical roles or skills, then you can apply.
Thank you so much, sir. So it's been a period, a long time coming. It's a little bit close to the end time of the webinar. So I would just like to throw out the hands to our audience. If we have any questions, any thing you want to gain clarity on, kindly signify so that we can take your questions before we throw in the towel. Does anyone have any question? Questions. Okay. So yeah. Okay, someone is asking, how long does it take to have a work visit in Canada? A work visa in Canada. How long does it take to have a work visa in Canada, especially in the tech sector? What's the timeline to get a work visa in Canada?
Okay, thanks for that question. So when it comes to work visas in Canada, there are a couple of pathways which, just like every other country, that they have put forward. Now, for tech professionals, Canada offers, a kind of fast pathway to a work visa, especially if you have to their own global talent stream or temporary foreign worker program. Now, if your role falls under the listed, high in demand tech occupation that they believe that your employer may be eligible. It may take as little as 2 to 4 weeks thereabouts to get that. IRCC can be super efficient when it comes to this, especially if they see that your role is critical. So, and of course, the timeline would ultimately depend on whether your employer has an approved labor market benefits plan, that's the LMBP, that they require for companies to have. In case maybe you don't know about that, your company should actually look into that. But of course, how quickly your documentation is completed as well is very, very important. And of course, sometimes your country of residence. So one thing about visa application, especially work visas, is that the places where you're applying for may be a determinant. If you are currently applying within Canada, I would say your timeline to get it will be very fast. Same thing as applying for a work visa in the United States. You would get it much faster if you're currently within that country. But if you're outside, you may be subject to certain timelines and jurisdiction requirement, because most of these immigration bodies, they treat numerous applications from different countries. I can speak from the standpoint of the USCIS from the US. They attach different processing timelines to different countries, based on whatever is happening in that country, based on whether that country is, maybe undergoing a ban or, say soft ban, or whether that country is notorious for, this and that. But every country would not have the same amount of processing timeline. And the same goes for the IRCC as well. I've seen people apply for a visiting visa from Canada from Nigeria, and it's taking almost a year or 9 months or 10 months for them to get a decision. And you apply for the same visa from the UK, it takes 2 weeks or 1 week, right? So all those things, you have to put them into perspective. So you can't really just say, oh, this is how long it's gonna take. There are so many factors involved. Okay, I hope that helps you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Damola. So one person is raising his hand, Elo, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Please kindly go ahead to ask your question.
Oh yeah, sorry, that was a mistake. Thanks.
Okay. Any other question before we round off? All right. So we'll be taking final words from our speakers. Mr. Damola, any final words from you?
Okay, thank you. So, like I said earlier, I always charge people that, the immigration space is always changing. What may be there today, just like, you saw with the UK a couple of days ago, may change drastically within a, blink of an eye. And that's why if you see or if you know that you qualify for anything, yeah, you may say, I want to apply next year, I want to apply in 6 months' time. The problem is that in that 6 months' time, that particular pathway may no longer be there. Also, one thing I want to, maybe add to this, there are some pathways in the US today, and a lot of people get shocked when they realize that Nigerians are not eligible, right? There are some pathways that can get you a green card in the US today, that when you see that people from Ghana, people from Cameroon are applying for this, and then you apply as a Nigerian, and then the USCIS tells you, oh, fortunately, you cannot apply for this. That's what happens in the immigration space. There are some categories that, Trump in his first presidency has already barred some country from applying for. That's what executive power does, right? So do not wait, do not sleep, on anything that can actually get you approved in certain, pathways or categories of certain countries. If you see that you qualify, approach us. We're willing to have that conversation, and we're willing to help you. So what is looking for problem solvers? We know Africa is full of them. Let's show up, let's scale up, and take our place in shaping the global tech future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Damola. Any final words, Ms. Bumi?
I would have said Mr. Damola has said everything, but I will always like to say that the time to start is now, because the next minute might just come with another policy change, and you will never know what you're qualified for except you take a try. That is why at Vesti we have a lot of support systems like the pre-qualification tests to even know what you qualify for how you qualify for it, and how we're able to help you navigate the process. So you might want to take the pre-qualification test. My colleagues will drop the link, and also a thank you mail will be sent to you with this test. Please do well to take it and then know what you're qualified for and how you can go global. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bumi. I had a great time. I don't know about you, but I had a great time. It's been pretty insightful. Thank you so much, Mr. Damola, for joining. Thank you so much, Ms. Bumi. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to everyone who took out time to join us today. Like I always say, everything that has a beginning always has an end. So we've come to the end of this amazing, insightful, and interesting session. Please, 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 at the point of your decision, whichever pathway, whichever route you want to take, as long as you're building something valuable, you're doing great work, please, 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 Vesty is always here to hold your hands through the process. Our clarity call sessions, our eligibility tests, please go on our website. My colleagues are dropping some links in the chat box. Please go on there, see what you need, and proceed to taking that step you want to take in terms of going global. Thank you so much. Good afternoon or good evening. Please have a wonderful day. Bye for now.